Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kazem Kazempour, and I'm very happy to let you know about Amarex fight against COVID, and also let you know a little bit more about the IVD and things of that nature that we will talk. The focus of the talk really is about the following bullets, if you may. Several months, or about 9 months now, really, starting from January. I know March really were when the February, March was the one we really felt about it, but already started as early as January, if not late December, where we are with the coronavirus in September. And what Amarex and colleagues in Amarex have done in fight against COVID-19, in no way or shape, this is really any advertisement of the sort. It's just letting you know that in this 9 months, in this pandemic, what we have done, and really it's a reflection of the regulatory agencies across the world, because we are working with the US FDA, and some Asian FDAs, being Korean, being Taiwan, and also MHRA and other European ones. And another question that probably you have seen a lot of publications about it, how about non-COVID trials? Are all those stopped? And I've seen publications that practically saying that all other non-COVID are stopped and all that thing. I would like to say that this may have been true at the beginning, but not necessarily. And I will talk about it more. And then, then talking about the emergency use authorization for IVD in particular, and for COVID-19 specifically. And what emergency use authorization is, and what it's doing, and talking about the FDA with in vitro diagnosis for the emergency use authorization. Remember, emergency use authorization, as most of you know, is different than the one that we are doing in the FDA approval. And talking about the FDA emergency use authorizations, I give you some background. First, I'm using it and then give you some background. Let's start by telling you where we are in COVID pandemic. This data that you see on the screen, it's from World Odometer from Johns Hopkins. And this is used from, I think when I was preparing this talk a few days ago. So the date is 10th of September. I'm sure by now is more. We were talking about 28 million. And as you can see, still is new infection comes somewhere close 250,000 a day. And the total number of deaths is fairly high, is somewhere around 5,000–6,000 around the world a day, which is very high. That's where we are at the moment. Yes, I do look at them. If you look at the curve, you can see that I look at them from different countries. I look at Europe. I look at, for example, France. I see it start going up, and some other UK and some other countries start going up. Thank God the number of deaths is not as much as it was before, but this is US. I don't want to get into politics, but we all know that we in US have not handled it very well. So as you can see, the number of infection never went down. As you can see, in a lot of other countries went down close to zero and then came back up. But here, really, we never had almost less than 25,000 a day. And then it went up to around 70-some thousand a day. And then it's coming back down, thank God. But look at death really in the US, as you can see, it's fairly high. We are close to 200,000 deaths so far. And based on all the epidemiologists, the number, if we do not use masks, and if you do not do other appropriate stuff, it's going to get worse. Okay, let's hope we learn to deal with this properly and move on. Let me focus on Amarex dealing with this COVID-19, where we are with that. Just want to let you know, since March, we have been involved and helping about 16 different companies on 30 some separate projects for COVID-19 alone. And these COVID-19 products are different. I'll give you more detail about them. And these projects, as I mentioned earlier, are from US, that the company is a US-based company. And then we do trial both in US and also in with MHRA in UK in particular, we are doing it right now. Or it's the other way around, it's from UK or Europe and or Asia, and then we go to FDA and submit to FDA. And also we may do trial in those countries as well as US. So it is really, really involved. We have been heavily, heavily involved. And types of submissions that we have had with FDA has been from the emergency use authorization, especially at the very, very early. I'm talking about in March, that we have had a lot of ICU patients that we have dealt with, and then talking with FDA, getting the authorization, allowing patient to be treated and all that thing. Also, we have been heavily involved in the IND submission. Obviously, at this stage, when in old days we did submit IND, but nowadays it's a little bit different because of, first of all, we cannot have a face-to-face meeting. So it is IND, investigation on new drug application, and or in European we have CTA, clinical trial agreement. And with respect to FDA, really the first IND that we submitted for COVID, FDA contacted us, say that we recommend to you to withdraw that and send it as pre-IND meeting request. And still we are doing it. It's a little bit different, but for example, for IND, when you submit an IND and a protocol and all that thing, within 30 days, you should start your trial. If you don't if you don't hear back from the regulatory agency within 30 days, you can start your trial. But the agency did not want that happening. They wanted to talk with us and all that thing. So pre-IND meeting now for almost any company that we are dealing with, we request a pre-IND meeting, although we submit all the material for an IND. And then we get a written response only response from the agency, and then we move on from that direction. The same thing with MHRA. We submit something, they say, okay, let's talk. And the first talk is free, and they advise us and all that thing, and then we move on from that. We have done, as I said, several emergency use authorization and emergency INDs. And also we have applied for fast track designation, compassionate use, expanded access. So it has been very, very involved. With respect to indications, again, I'm focusing on COVID. We have been involved with the treatments of COVID in mild to moderate patients. Actually, that was, I think, the first trial that we did was in mild to moderate patients. The trial is finished. We are working with some regulatory authority for see if we can move toward approval. And then also we did for severe to critical patients. These are really, the endpoint in this one is survival. And then in addition to treatment, we have been involved in developing diagnostic tests. And we got one approval for an Asian country that was doing in several minutes, in 10 minutes, and we are involved in a couple other ones right now, and from Asian country, and we are in the process right now for the approval of new tests, which they are self-tests, by the way. That's it's similar to, for example, pregnancy or other tests that you test and you see if it is valid, it's positive or negative, or is invalid. If it's invalid, you redo it. Also, we have been involved in prophylactics. I separate the prophylactic from vaccines. We are involved in vaccines also, but the prophylactic is the one that we are working on. I think we are in clinical trial for that one, early clinical trial. Something new is happening, and we are also involved, and that is treatment for long hauler, or those who went through the ICU, went through the COVID, survived, and then they have other effects now that, for example, chronic fatigue syndrome, and we are involved in those as well. And what type of products? So many different types of products: small molecule, biologics, cell therapy, gene therapy, and different types of products. Okay, let me answer the question with non-COVID-19 trials in 2020. One question that everybody is asking is that, so what about non-COVID trial? We were involved in so many of them at the beginning, and due to COVID, they stopped it. They thought it's going to go away in a month or 2 months or 3 months, and then it didn't go away. Now they are coming back, and we are continuing to conduct clinical trials in non-COVID trials. And in 2020, in this year, we have been involved, obviously, in several HIV and antiviral. We are involved in cardiovascular trial. We are involved in several trials in schizophrenia and so on, in central nervous systems, and other dermatology, oncology in particular. So yes, the world is not stopped. The clinical trial is not stopped. It's a little bit slow, patient recruitment, but is it continuing? The answer is absolutely yes. And we are moving. Yes, we have made some changes. For example, monitoring that we are doing is different. Just want to let you know that's really nothing. Nothing is stopped. We call it BC and AC, and that is before Corona and after Corona. The things are a bit different, but it's moving, and we are getting new projects in different areas. And some of them just came out, as I said, in oncology we are doing, in dermatology we are doing. So it's moving. Let me go and focus on individual emergency use authorization for IVD, for a diagnostic in particular. And I know that a lot of colleagues are interested in that area. For COVID-19 alone, up to a couple of days ago that I was preparing these slides, and colleagues helping me preparing them, US FDA issued close to 250 of them. And from that, about 200 of them are molecular based, and about 50 of them are serology and antibody, and some are antigen. And the detail of them are right here, as you can see. So it's the FDA, US FDA is moving in that direction, and it is approving. The word approving may not be the right term. It's using individual emergency use authorization. And with SARS-CoV-2, in particular for COVID-19 related IVDs, as I said, the diagnostic tests are different types of tests that can detect part of SARS-CoV-2 virus and diagnose confirmed cases. Again, you may ask, what is the sensitivity? Specificity is different. But at the beginning, the very, very first one, most of you know, Gilead had it. I think the false negative was fairly large. If I am not mistaken, was 39% false negative, which is very, very high. That's not typical. But it's moving and getting better and better. And then serology antibody test, obviously, that's another one that is quite large number. And the tests and to detect antibody, for example, IgM, IgG, and so on, of the CoV-2 virus. And there is another type that is dealing with the management of COVID-19 patients. What do I mean by management of it? Is there are some tests that developed to authorize for the use in management of patients for COVID-19. Things like surrogates, if I may, or some biomarkers, detecting that and then finding how to deal with that. We are not involved in that one, but that's another parts that the regulators are involved in, and they are moving in that direction. I use the term emergency use authorization quite a lot. And let me tell you a little bit about some background of that one. What categories of products this one involve? It is FDA in here. I know MHRA has something similar, but I focus on US FDA. And it applies to a range of potential products, really, and that includes drugs, biologics, and also devices. We are involved in, I didn't mention that, but we are involved in several devices for COVID-19 as well. So the categories for emergency use authorization really involve the drugs, the biologics, and the devices. You know that FDA has CDER, Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, CBER, Center for Biological Evaluation and Research, and CDRH, that's focused on devices or diagnostics. With respect to the main focus is that the risk and benefit. The products have to be the benefit being more than the risk. Are eligible for emergency use authorization if the FDA can demonstrate, or the sponsor can demonstrate to FDA, and FDA confirm that the potential benefit is more than the risk. That's true for diagnosis, that's true for prevention, and also treatment. By prevention, as I said earlier, I distinguish between prophylactic and vaccines. We know there are some differences. And this is the risk and benefit, like every other thing, really. It is extremely important, and then the sponsor has to show it to the agency, and the FDA has to confirm it. For most parts, the FDA, we are dealing with them, we present the cases, they ask questions, and we respond to them. And usually, you know, FDA here in particular, and so is MHRA, they are more data dependent, and we both need to present the quality and quantity. What do I mean by that is we need to show to them that the endpoint that we are using, and in most cases they focus on clinical, but the risk and benefit has to be there, otherwise they will not approve. Which products are the products that should be used and are eligible? They are all sorts of them, but obviously it has to be a product that is unapproved, or it is approved but it is used for other indications or used for other things, not necessarily on this one. In those cases, we have to present to them and show that really this one can treat or prevent serious or life-threatening disease and or condition caused by CBRN, as you know, threat agent. And this is the one that really FDA is using to allow the product gets to market as fast as they can. And also different between this and approval is that this one can be withdrawn, not like approval. In approval also, approved product can be withdrawn too, but emergency use authorization is a little bit faster and easier to get it, and it's faster and easier to withdraw that. I stop here, and if there is any question, I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you very much. Appreciate for listening.